Okay, but Monsieur Le Maire is the mayor of the town that Fantine is working in. And, same thing as the musical, they catch, the townsfolk catch her sending money to the Thénardiers. Thénardiers keep adding more and more crap to her, stuff to send. And they make up lies. And then, unlike the musical, you kind of have to infer that Cosette being sick is a lie. Victor Hugo just tells you, he's like, yeah, y'all, it's a lie. She's not sick. They're just being douches. But, poor Fantine with her motherly instincts, and, I get it. You're gonna worry about your child if someone tells you something bad happens. So she's freaking out. She believes Cosette's actually sick. And she's trying to find all this money. But then she gets thrown out of her job. And it's it was just interesting because I was expecting, a huge deal. And I was expecting, that, weird guy in the musical.
Yes, the virtuous Fantine, who keeps herself so pure and clean, you'd be the cause, I had no doubt.
But no, it was kind of just, they found out she had a letter, and then she was thrown out. Whereas the musical had a whole song about it. And, yeah, they moved on from that pretty quickly. Something I do find interesting is that, Fantine actually had another job before she became a prostitute, because in the movie she kind of just goes straight into it. Because she finds other means to give the Thénardiers money. I mean, yeah, in the musical they show her getting her teeth pulled out and her hair cut, but they show that while she's a prostitute. Whereas here, she was sewing things for very little money. And she's like, and she had a neighbor, and she's like, neighbor, I don't know what to do. I'm so worried about her. And then she cuts her hair. Because I know in the the movie she did it, but in the musical she had a necklace. But that's not in the book at all. She cuts her hair, and then she's actually very reluctant to give up her teeth. Because Hugo also made a point to say, she had great teeth. And she was reluctant to give those up because she's like, well, my hair can grow back, but my teeth are not. And then finally someone pointed out to her, dude, this is gonna give you 100 francs. So she went to get her 2 front teeth pulled out. Poor girl. And, but she got the 100 francs. Thénardiers didn't need it, but, they're gonna steal money when they steal money. And, yeah, so that's why Victor Hugo makes a point of saying, hey, Fantine's just a beautiful, beautiful woman, and that she is kind of, naive and young. Because he does want to show you that, she's willing to give up that beauty if it's to help her daughter. And I admire that so much in people. And, in mothers, I just admire that, because there are some people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna stay beautiful. But Fantine's like, my daughter's sick. They need money to take care of her. I have to do this. I have to do whatever it means. And I just find that interesting. Also, I don't know if the stage musical has the scene where her teeth are getting pulled out. I know the movie does. But I don't know if the musical does, so tell me that. And then finally, Fantine just can't find other ways to give more money, so she does become a prostitute. And she's like, if you can't sell anything else, you have to sell the one thing you have left. And, all she had left was her body. Because she sold her hair, her teeth, and all her furniture. But, the movie makes a huge deal about her being... The movie and the musical make a huge deal about her being a prostitute. They have the whole song about it, and, they show all the stuff, and they have the whole shebang with her having sex with a soldier, I guess, and, don't they know that making love to someone who's already dead? That's not the exact lyric, but whatever. And, but in the book, she's not a prostitute for very long. Again, it's... Fantine lives in this horrible apartment. She gave up her hair. She gave up her teeth. She gave up this, and this. By the way, she's a prostitute. Then this, and this. I just enjoy the fact that Hugo gives so much detail, because there's a reason the book is this big. Gives so much detail, but at the same time doesn't. He'll spend chapters talking about the inside of a house, but then a paragraph describing a month of someone's life. Just like the musical, some horrible person comes along and, does stuff to provoke her, this anger in her, this violent anger, and then Javert arrests her. She's like, no, you can't, because Cosette, and Javert doesn't believe her. Monsieur Le Maire comes in. And I kind of find this part hilarious. I shouldn't, but I do. One thing I So now I can kind of like rush through things. So like, you know, Monsieur Le Maire takes her to an infirmary. She is sick. She's delusional. I don't really know what the disease is. If any of you could tell me. And Javert comes in. He's like, yeah, dude, thought you were Valjean, so I reported you. Turns out you're not Valjean. This Chap Mathieu guy is, and he won't like admit it. But, you know, we know he won't admit it because it's true, but, like, everyone's like, you're Valjean! And then Monsieur Le Maire's, like, panicking, because then Victor Hugo literally says, he's like, no, the reader knows who Monsieur Le Maire really is. Valjean. And I kid you not, Valjean literally spends, like, 5 pages singing the first half of Who Am I?
He thought that man was me, without a second glance. The stranger he has found, this man could be my chance.
And then there's this huge gap of him traveling. And I found a lot of, like, the travel stuff kind of, like, unnecessary detail. Just because a lot of it just wasn't important. They made a huge deal about him having to trade horses and all that. And then finally he gets to, like, this town where the Chap Mathieu guy is being held. And then he finally sings the last half of Who Am I?
Who am I? 2, 4, 6,
And, you know, people don't believe him. They're like, you're not Valjean. Because, like, Chap Mathieu is telling the truth, but literally no one believes him. They're just like, you're just saying that so you don't get into jail. And the dude's just like, no, I'm not Valjean. And, like, these 3 witnesses come in. They're like, no, he is. We promise. We recognize him. And granted, the dude looked like Valjean. Valjean walked in and he thought he was looking at it, like, thought he was looking at himself. But then Valjean finally says, yo, I'm Valjean. I am prisoner 24601. He goes to the witnesses. He's like, look at my eyes. And they're like, well, you do look like him. And he's like, and him as in Chap Mathieu. And they're like, he's like, no. Remember these personal moments that nobody else but me would know? And everyone's just like, they don't know what to do about it. Stunned silence. Because Monsieur Le Maire is apparently popular in that town too. I forgot why. Victor Hugo mentioned it, but I forgot why. He's like, by the way, guys, I need to go back. But he did say, like, hey, arrest me instead of this guy. So, let Javert know. Because Javert was going to resign after this case, but he doesn't have to resign anymore, because turns out he was right. And finally he gets back to the infirmary to see Fantine, because he would see her every day. And, you know, he promised her, like, hey, I'm going to get Cosette back to you. Like, he wrote to the Thénardier saying, like, you need to give me back Cosette. But then Thénardier, like, Monsieur Thénardier was just like, no, don't do it. It's a trap. So they never sent her back, and that kind of pissed off Valjean. But Fantine was, like, so dead set on seeing her again that when Valjean left to this case, she was just like, oh my god, he's bringing her back. So they actually had lied to her, which I kind of thought was a douchey move. But when he finally came back to visit her, she's like, you brought Cosette! And he's like, yeah, I did, but she's so sick, we need to keep her away from you. You're also so sick that you'll probably, like, have a heart attack if you see her again. And I'm like, y'all, why didn't you just tell her the truth? And there's actually, like, a nun there who she never told a lie in her life. She's like, we can't tell her, blah, blah, blah. And by this point, you are, like, reaching the point, the end of Fantine's life. And this is where her huge characterization comes in, and I thought it was just brilliant, because when you first meet her, she's naive, she's this beautiful young woman, and then throughout the book, she turns, like, Victor Hugo's definition of ugly, and then she just turns into this mad woman, like, just insane. She's angry, and I wouldn't blame her for being angry, but then near this point, like, she's still ugly, but she's not angry anymore, you know, and she knows that her anger was bad, and she's like, you know, it's a good thing Cosette didn't see me in that state. I don't want her to see me in that anger state. But I'm happy now, and I want to see her. And, like, knowing Cosette was coming back, because she legit thought Cosette was there, her health actually did get better. So, props to her. But then Javert comes back, and scares the shit out of her, and I thought she died. I thought she died at this scene, because she just went limp with her eyes wide open, and her mouth agape, like, and I'm like, okay, you're dead. Oh my god, no. Your last sight was Javert. This is not how you died in the book. Or the movie. Musical. Whatever. This is not how you died in the musical. But then she didn't die. She was just shocked. And then Valjean's like, did you really just scare this woman? And Javert's like, yes, I did. I do want to mention, though, in the song that she sings when she's dying, she has this line. The movie is different, but in the musical is, Monsieur, like, listen to all the children play, something along the lines of that.
Look, monsieur, where all the children play.
And then, I realized reading this book that that's her having, like, a hallucination. Because, this is the point where Valjean comes back and she thinks Cosette's out there, and she hears there's children outside the infirmary, like, playing. She's like, oh, that's Cosette's laugh, that's Cosette's laugh, when in reality it was not. So that line in the musical, I realized that is her having a hallucination, and it was like, okay, everything makes sense now. So now that Javert's job is secure, he's back to his drama queen self. He's like, I'm gonna arrest you because I was right all along. And Valjean's like, hold up, gotta go save her daughter. And Javert's like, no. And then Fantine does realize, like, oh, Cosette's not here, and that breaks her heart. That scene broke my heart too, because that had to be the worst thing. I was just so mad at them for lying to her. I could see why they did it, but at the same time, it's like, wouldn't just finding out the truth, like, after you lie to her, wouldn't finding out the truth, like, break her heart even more? And she does die randomly. Unlike the musical, where, you know, it's just like, they make a whole song about it, and it's just this peaceful death as Valjean holds her. And then Javert comes in, they have a battle. No, it's in the middle of the battle. In the book, it's in the middle of the confrontation that she dies. And it's, like, kind of random. I think the nun was the one who noticed it. But it was basically like, Javert grabbed this and threw it, Valjean grabbed this and threw it, and then they did this and this. By the way, guys, Fantine's dead. Then this, blah! And that was the end of Fantine's life, so, Also, my favorite chapter title is literally Fantine Happy. Fantine Happy. And that's the chapter she died in. So when I was telling my friend about this, my friend was like, more like Fantine dead, haha. She's not wrong. I do want to give a special shout out to Sister Simplice. Maybe that's the French pronunciation, but I read it Simplice just because her name is basically Sister Simple, and that's how you say that in Italian. But, so, Valjean does run away from Javert, and he hides in an upstairs room before he, you know, goes off. And he hears Javert coming, so he hides, and Sister Simplice is already in there. She's like, I don't know what to do. So she kneels down and prays, and Javert's like, is a man in here? I'm gonna trust you because I know you never lie, so your word is sacred. But the sister lied. She lied and saved she lied and saved Valjean's ass. You know, like, the comedian side of me was like, sinner! But the logical side of me was like, you go, girl. You did it for the greater good. God's gonna understand. But then, like, I have to laugh at Javert. Just because he's, like, this inspector. Bro, your job is to, like, not trust anyone. And yet, you did. You kind of trusted the wrong person. Granted, he thought she was the right person. I could see why he thought he trusted the right person. I could see why he thought that. But, like, people like that nun are why I have trust issues. It's like, if you're always going to tell me the truth, I'm going to believe you the one time you say the lie. And that's what Javert did. And then finally, Volume 1, Fantine, ends with Fantine's burial. And back in the day, if you were poor, you were buried in just this mass grave. And that's what happened to her. She was buried in a mass grave. And my favorite line was, her grave resembled her bed. And that just kind of reminded me of the poverty she lived in. Her grave was described as being where the poor are lost. And I could see that, like, resembling her just because that point of her time where she was away from Cosette and she was living in this new town, like, she was lost. She didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to get this money. And as soon as she was just kicked out of her job, she lost her way in life, and then she ended up where she ended up. And then there's, fortunately, God knows where to find the soul again. And that kind of just, not to give Valjean this, like, God complex, but that just reminded me of him, because he was, after she was kicked out of his factory, he was able to find her again. So that's how I'm relating it to that. She was subjected to the promiscuousness of ashes. And that the word just kind of reminds me of her promiscuity from trying to get money. And she's kind of just, like, subjected to that again. She was thrown into the public grave. Her grave resembled her bed. And, yeah, I already explained this part, I guess. She just doesn't have anything of her own because she's that poor. And, like, it kind of reminds me of the fact that she didn't really have a bed either when she was living in that apartment with her neighbor. Because she sold her bed, so her bed was just essentially, like, just scrap. And that's where her grave is. It's just scrap. It's the leftovers, because that's what the poor get. The poor get the leftovers. And that's where her body is living for the rest of eternity. Not Fantine's soul, but her body. Alright, and that was the end of Volume 1. So, maybe I should have thought of discussion questions, because that would have been fun. But, you know, my final thoughts are the writing is absolutely beautiful. Usually I'm not a huge fan of classics, but I'm like, you know what, I love this musical, I'm gonna do it. And I'm having no problems with it. It's fun. I mean, I'm sure he's making allusions I'm not getting, but that's why I'm trying to take this slow. I find the bishop a very important role, because he is essentially the one who turned Valjean's life around. Without the bishop, Valjean would probably been thrown back in jail for another crime. And yeah, and you know he's important because in the movie, in the musical in general, after the whole giving Valjean the candlesticks, you never hear the bishop again. But you do hear of him again because it does hit like national news that the bishop has died, and Monsieur le Maire is very heartbroken about that. He went in mourning, and you know the whole town was like, oh, connections, we know something about him, he knows someone. So yeah, so that's why I think the bishop's very important, even in the musical, but like I think his importance is definitely stronger in the book. And Valjean's characterization is great. It's like you met him as this angry man, and by the end of Volume 1 he just wants to help. He wants to give things. Like that's why he's like, okay, God wants me to help you. I need to turn your life around for God. I need to turn my life around for God. And God wants me to help you, whether you're rich or poor, and I'm going to do it. And that's what he does. He turns into this very nice man. And same with Fantine. Her characterization's amazing. When you're first introduced to her, she's a totally different person than by the time she died. I personally think she also matured. I mean, the fact that having a kid probably helped her too, because that's just what happens in nature, but you know, she saw more hardships in life. So the more hardships you see, the more mature you kind of end up being sometimes. And I could definitely see the title in this whole story, because the title translates to English as the miserable one. So everyone in this book is just going through a miserable. I'm trying to think of other things to say that sound smart, but as of now, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, so I'm gonna... Why is my hair, like, really shiny? But I'm gonna stop this video. It was fun talking to y'all. I did finish Volume 2. I finished it today, so I'll make that video soon. Hopefully that's more of a discussion than an actual summary. This turned into a huge summary with just my side comments. But, yeah. Spoilers. If you haven't noticed, I do really enjoy this book. That's probably why it's just summary. When I really like a book, I just give a summary. Whereas if I hate a book, that's where the whole discussion comes in. But I love this book, so yeah, that's all I have to say about it. So I'll see you guys later with the second one. I don't know when that's going to come out. And the discussions for volumes 3 through 5 will come out whenever I read those. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you like Les Miserables as much as I do. Go listen to the soundtrack if you haven't, because it is absolutely beautiful and I'm always singing those songs. So, have a great night, guys. Don't stay up till 3 in the morning to make videos, because I am, like, deadbeat tired right now. Alright, I'm gonna stop talking. Ciao!
Come to me, Cosette, the light is fading. Don't you see?